Topping today's news, unions accuse the government on reneging on a pre-election memorandum of understanding. Bahamas Power and Light workers say industrial action is a last resort but not out of the question. The Foreign Affairs Minister comments on Kamala Harris as U.S. presidential candidate, and 2 men on Harbor Island charged in the death of a visitor on Pink Sands Beach. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us today. On Tuesday, the Minister of Energy and Transport, Jobeth Kobe Davis, inspected Pike Corporation bucket trucks that recently arrived in the Bahamas. In the new BPL deal, Pike Corporation, through its Bahamian management company, Island Grid Solutions, has a mandate for upgrading and managing BPL's transmission and distribution network. The Energy Ministry confirmed that representatives from Island Grid are on the ground assisting BPL with outstanding distribution work. The ministry said in a statement that their presence in the Bahamas, even before the deal is finalized, underscores their commitment to being proactive partners in fortifying the energy infrastructure here in the Bahamas. Well, the bucket truck inspection by Minister Kobe Davis may have triggered the panic button in the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union, who held a press conference the day after on Wednesday to once again express their concerns with the Bahamas Power and Light deal. The union hinted at possible industrial action from Inagua in the south to Grand Bahama and Abaco in the north. Some union leaders that signed a memorandum of understanding with the then opposition Progressive Liberal Party ahead of the September 2021 general elections are accusing the Davis administration of reneging on that agreement. During their press conference on Wednesday, President of the Bahamas Electrical Workers Union, Kyle Wilson, said this about that memorandum of understanding.
If you pull up MOU, you're going to see a picture of myself shaking the hand of the then opposition leader. And to be honest with you, I was excited because what he's saying that they were going to do for labor in contravention to the reigning administration at that time, it was exciting because I'm a union president. They saying I ain't got to run up and down the street no more. I ain't got to carry on bad. I ain't got to break up nothing or push nobody down or cut off no. We could just flow and follow the channels of respect. So I think it's going to make life easier for unions. And that's what the intent of it was.
Mr. Wilson recalled sitting with members of the then opposition as they worked together to hash out details of the MOU. He noted that the agreement was not something forced onto today's government. Mr. Wilson said although the 600-member strong union, they are angry and they're ready for industrial action, but such a move would be a last resort.
Do I want to carry on bad? The enemy wants to carry on ruthless to show them the power of the union. But you know what's going to happen? I'm going to hurt so many innocent Bahamians who have businesses out there, right? Who depend on reliable energy supply. People who working at home, who have at-home businesses and who work from home. And it's the effect of it is going to be damaging more to the average Bahamian than it would be to these persons who sitting in their office under their AC, got generators anyway. So they ain't going to feel the effects of it. So people pay for light and not for fight. And we're dealing with a very hot summer. Right? And I don't want to hold no Bahamian or the average person hostage for any disagreement or any misconception between the union and the government. The Bahamian people don't deserve it. And that's what we are trying our best to avoid.
Mr. Wilson made it clear that Bahamas Power and Light Workers Union is not opposed to the upgrades of infrastructure. Rather, their focus is on labor relations and protecting the workers' negotiated rights and benefits in this and future industrial agreements. Since the announcement by the United States President Joe Biden that he would drop out of the 2024 race for the White House and his subsequent endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential candidate, there has not been much commentary by local politicians. Well, PLP Chairman, Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell has broken that silence. He said local politicians can learn a lesson from Mrs. Harris' political career.
These are what Perry Christie would call teachable moments. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, is likely now the nominee for the governing party in the U.S. for president, now that President Joe Biden says he will not run again. At the service in Miami for Independence on Sunday, I thanked Joe Biden for his support of the CARICOM region and the Bahamas in particular, and wished him well. But the lesson of Kamala Harris is this, and I've said it many times before: politics is a fortuitous business, and half the game is simply to be present and accounted for and at the table and in the room. You never know what will happen when your name will be called. That is the lesson today of Kamala Harris. When you enter politics, you enter for the long term. The aim is to survive, and too many younger politicians become weary pilgrims halfway in, saying things like, "It's too hard, I can't get things done, I should resign." Wrong answer if you're a serious politician.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs says Bahamians must now ask the question, what would it mean for the Bahamas should Mrs. Harris become the next President of the United States?
Now the Foreign Ministry, the Bahamas, and its representatives in America are all tasked with explaining to us what this means for our country, including the possibility of a change in the governing parties in the U.S. The implications may be profound in climate change, on gun policy, and on immigration. But the lesson of Kamala Harris:
while general elections for the Bahamas will take place in 2026, the United States elections are set to take place Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. And finally, in this segment, Atoll Island, situated just off the northeast coast of New Providence, has been in the news for the past week after F&M Member of Parliament Adrian White questioned the government on who was given permission to develop the island, which was recommended by the Bahamas National Trust to be a marine protected area. Leon Lundy, Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, refused to share the name of the person or company, but informed that a lease was granted and all of the environmental clearings were granted and approved as well. On Wednesday, Dr. Rihanna Neely, the Director of the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, shared the following information in regards to the Atoll Island dispute.
With reference to the matter of development on Atoll Island, the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection received an application for a certificate of environmental clearance from a Mr. Andrew Hanna in January of this year to install a wooden dock, a rest area, and a restaurant on Atoll Island. A site visit was conducted in association with the application, and at the time of the site visit, it was clear that construction of the proposed rest area and the restaurant were already in progress. To this end, a cease and desist order was issued for all the activities on island, and after we were able to complete the review of the application, a CEC was issued in February of 2024 for the construction of the wooden dock only, with the understanding that any other activity would require further environmental review, as the CEC does not give permission for the commencement of any construction activities.
Neely. Dr. Neely said during the initial site visit, it was noted that construction of a seawall was already underway and it was unclear if the appropriate permits were attained. She explained the actions of the department since the matter was brought up in the House of Assembly.
This matter came up again in the House of Assembly last week on the 17th of July, and out of an abundance of caution, a cease and desist order was issued until the department was able to conduct a comprehensive review of the entire site and meet with the environmental consultants of record. Officers of the DEPP conducted the site visit on the same day to determine if any activities outside of those for which clearance was issued were being conducted. And it was determined that the site was predominantly unchanged since the April 2024 visit. However, the CEC still remains in place as we are to meet with the contractor and the environmental consultants.
Again, that was Dr. Rihanna Neely, the Director of the Department of Environmental Planning and Protections. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.